Dark Elf's Chosen, Season 2, Episode 8, by Celeste King.
Previously on Dark Elf's Chosen.
The ritual is almost complete.
We can't let them get away with this.
I never thought I'd see you again.
Craving more uncut action and steamy scenes?
You know it. YouTube's great, but some things are too hot to handle here.
And you know where to go. worldsofprathika.com.
Exactly. Grab the full, unabridged season of Dark Elf's Chosen and dive deep into the Forbidden Realm.
Don't forget to use code YouTube30 for a sweet 30% discount on your purchase.
Plus, if you buy both Season 1 and 2 together, you can score an even bigger discount.
Like, comment, and subscribe to keep these free full audiobooks coming your way.
This is Season 2, Episode 8 of Celeste King's Dark Elf's Chosen.
Chapter 50. Savannah. My breath comes in ragged gasps as we stagger into a small, secluded cave. The air inside feels cool and damp, a welcome contrast to the heated chaos of the battle. I collapse onto the stone floor, my legs trembling beneath me. Julius, Razdin, and Rannika follow close behind, their faces etched with exhaustion and relief. Julius crouches beside me, his eyes scanning my face with an intensity that makes my heart ache. "Are you all right?" His voice is a whisper, thick with concern. I nod weakly. "Just tired." Razdin leans against the cave wall, his fur matted with blood and sweat. Despite his injuries, he gives a weak smile. "We made it," he says, his voice a low rumble. Rannika sits cross-legged nearby, her blue eyes filled with a serene calm that contrasts sharply with the chaos we've just escaped. "This cave should be safe for now," she murmurs. "Dark elves aren't allowed on Milthar." Julius's hand finds mine, squeezing gently. "We'll rest here," he declares, his tone brooking no argument. "We all need it." The firelight from Julius's magic flickers against the cave walls, casting dancing shadows that seem almost peaceful compared to the horrors we've faced. I lean my head back and close my eyes, letting the sound of Razdin's laboured breathing and Rannika's soft humming lull me into a state of semi-consciousness. Julius shifts beside me, his body tense despite our temporary refuge. "Savannah," he whispers. I manage to murmur in response. "Thank you. For everything." His words are laden with emotion. I open my eyes to meet his gaze. "We'll get through this," I assure him softly. "Together." He nods but doesn't reply, instead pulling me closer until I'm nestled against his chest. The steady thrum of his heartbeat is both comforting and grounding. Razdin clears his throat from across the cave. "We need a plan," he says gruffly. Rannika nods in agreement. "But first we need rest," she insists gently. "Savannah needs rest, so yes, rest first," Julius adds. "Fine," Razdin sighs as he relents. "Just let it be known that the Minotaur who nearly died twice is the one being the most proactive." I give a weak giggle as Julius throws a rock at Razdin from across the cave, hitting him in the arm. "Maybe I shouldn't have helped you get your magic back," he says, rubbing his arm. I smile and tuck my head back into Julius's shoulder, finding the comfort I have long since missed. The silence that follows is heavy, but not uncomfortable. It's the silence of shared relief and unspoken promises, a fragile moment of peace amidst the storm raging outside our small sanctuary. And for now, that is enough. In the morning, we leave the cave and shuffle along the narrow, winding path leading to a run-down seaside inn Razdin insists he knows well. The salty sea breeze mixes with the earthy scent of damp wood, a stark contrast to the sterile air of the tunnels we've just escaped. My legs feel like lead, each step an effort, but I cling to Julius's side, drawing strength from his presence. The inn looms ahead, its wooden facade weathered by time and sea. The sign hanging above the door creaks ominously in the wind. Razdin strides forward, pushing open the door with a familiarity that surprises me. Inside, the air is thick with the scent of old ale and brine. A few patrons glance up, but quickly return to their drinks, uninterested in newcomers. Behind the bar stands an elderly human woman with sharp eyes and a no-nonsense demeanour. She eyes Razdin warily as he approaches. "Gara," Razdin greets her with a nod. "We need rooms and discretion." She raises an eyebrow, wiping her hands on a stained apron. "And what's in it for me?" Razdin reaches into his pouch, pulling out a handful of gleaming coins. "This should cover it." Gara's eyes widen slightly before she pockets the coins with a curt nod. "Upstairs, the double suite is the last room on the right," she instructs, her voice low. "Keep to yourselves and don't cause trouble." We follow Razdin up the creaky staircase, each step groaning under our weight. The hallway is dimly lit, the flickering lamps casting long shadows on the worn floorboards. Razdin pushes open one of the doors, revealing a small room with 2 narrow beds, a curtain hung to separate the room in 2, and a single window overlooking the choppy sea. "This will do," he says gruffly. Julius helps me onto one of the beds, his touch gentle despite his own exhaustion. I sink into the mattress, my body finally relaxing as I take in our modest sanctuary. Razdin stands by the window, staring out at the darkening sky. "We'll be safe here for now," he murmurs. Ranika settles onto the other bed, her serene calmness a stark contrast to my swirling thoughts. "Rest now," she advises softly. Julius crouches beside me, his eyes narrowing with determination. His hands hover above my chest, and I can see the faint flicker of magic sparking to life within his palms. The glow intensifies, warm and golden, bathing us in a soft light that chases away the lingering shadows. "You'll feel better soon, Savannah," he murmurs, voice steady, despite the exhaustion etched into his features. The warmth of his magic seeps into my skin, spreading like a gentle tide. I can feel it coursing through my veins, a soothing balm that eases the tightness in my chest and steadies my ragged breaths. The world seems to slow, my racing heart finding a more manageable rhythm. Julius's gaze never wavers from mine as he channels the healing energy into me. His hands tremble slightly, but the glow remains constant, unwavering. My vision clears, the dim light of the cave becoming sharper and more defined. The pounding headache that had been threatening to overwhelm me fades into a distant memory. I close my eyes, surrendering to the comforting embrace of Julius's magic. The sensation is like being wrapped in a warm blanket on a cold night, safe and secure. Each breath I take feels easier than the last, my lungs filling with air untainted by fear or pain. "Savannah," Julius whispers again, his voice barely audible over the hum of his magic. "It's okay, you're safe. Take it all in." I open my eyes to meet his gaze once more. The concern in his eyes is palpable, but there's also a flicker of hope. Hope that maybe we can find our way through this together. The colour begins to return to my cheeks, a healthy flush replacing the pallor that had taken hold. Julius's magic continues to work its way through me, knitting together whatever had been frayed inside. I can feel strength returning to my limbs, the heavy fatigue lifting bit by bit. "Thank you," I manage to whisper, my voice steadier than it has been in days. Julius gives me a small smile, relief washing over his features. "We're not out of this completely yet," he says softly, "but we'll get there." As the last of his healing magic settles into me, I reach out and take his hand in mine. The connection is grounding, a silent promise that we'll face whatever comes next together. Ranika and Razdin exchange a glance, sensing the gravity of the moment. "We'll give you two some privacy," Ranika says gently, leading Razdin out of the small inn room. The door closes softly behind them, leaving Julius and me alone. Julius, I whisper, my voice trembling. There's something I need to tell you. He tilts his head, his gaze never leaving mine. What is it? I swallow hard, feeling the weight of my secret pressing down on me. I'm pregnant. For a moment, time seems to stand still. Julius's eyes widen in shock, his mouth opening and closing as he tries to process my words. The silence stretches between us, heavy and expectant. Pregnant? He finally manages to say, his voice barely more than a whisper. I nod, tears pricking at the corners of my eyes. Yes. His expression softens, a mixture of worry and joy crossing his features. Are you all right? Is the baby all right? I think so, I say softly, placing a hand on my still flat stomach. But I'm scared, Julius. There's so much we don't know. He pulls me into his arms, holding me close as if he can shield me from all the dangers we face. We'll figure it out, he murmurs against my hair. Together. A tear slips down my cheek as I cling to him, the reality of our situation sinking in. But there's also a glimmer of hope, a new life growing inside me, a symbol of our love and resilience. Julius suddenly pulls back, his eyes shining with a mix of emotions. We're going to be parents, he says, his voice filled with excitement. A wide smile spreads across his face. Savannah, we're going to have a baby! His enthusiasm is contagious, and I find myself smiling despite my fears. Yes, I whisper, feeling a small spark of joy amidst the uncertainty. Julius drops to his knees, his hands gently cupping my still flat stomach. Hello in there, he says softly, his voice full of wonder. I'm your daddy, and I can't wait to meet you. As he leans in to kiss my stomach, a surge of warmth and light bursts from me. My magic, uncontrollable and raw, flares in response to the pure love and excitement radiating from Julius. But he doesn't seem to be able to feel it, thankfully, as he leans back. He kisses me gently, his lips warm and reassuring against mine. We'll protect our child, he vows quietly, no matter what. In that moment, surrounded by the flickering firelight and the sounds of the sea outside, I feel a fragile sense of peace, a promise of new beginnings even in the midst of chaos. For now, that is enough.
Chapter 51. Julius. Let's go wash up, I tell her, helping her to the bathroom. I guide Savannah to sit on the edge of the wooden tub, her eyes half closed. Her skin glows faintly in the dim light, the warmth from the fire casting soft shadows across her face. I can't believe it. Pregnant. The word still echoes in my mind, bouncing around like a rogue spell. I heat the water with a simple flick of my wrist, ensuring it's just the right temperature. The bath fills with steam, and I guide her in gently, supporting her as she sinks into the warmth. She lets out a small sigh of relief, and I can't help but smile at the sight. Comfortable? I ask, kneeling beside the tub. She nods, eyes fluttering open to meet mine. Yes, thank you. I dip a cloth into the warm water and gently wring it out over her shoulders. The water cascades down her skin, and she shivers slightly. I reach for a small vial of rersed oil we found in the inn stash and add a few drops to the bath. The scent fills the room, calming my racing thoughts. Julius, she begins softly. You don't have to fuss over me. Nonsense, I reply, my voice firm but gentle. You're carrying our child. The words feel strange yet wonderful as they leave my lips. She looks up at me, a mix of gratitude and something else, something I can't quite place, shining in her eyes. I take a wooden bowl and fill it with water from the tub, then slowly pour it over her hair. Her red curls darken as they soak up the water, clinging to her shoulders like wet vines. I reach for a bar of soap and work it into a lather between my hands before massaging it into her scalp. Her eyes close again and she leans back slightly into my touch. "This feels nice," she murmurs. "I'm glad," I say softly, continuing to work the soap through her hair. Each strand slips through my fingers like silk, and for a moment, everything else fades away. The danger, the exhaustion, even the gnawing fear that still lingers at the edges of my mind. I rinse her hair carefully, pouring more warm water over her head until every trace of soap is gone. Savannah tugs on my hand, her grip gentle but insistent. "Join me," she says, her voice a soft plea. I hesitate for a moment, but the look in her eyes dissolves any reluctance. I shed my clothes and step into the tub, the water embracing me with its warmth. Savannah shifts to make room, and I sink down in front of her. She takes the cloth from my hand, dipping it into the water before bringing it to my chest. Her touch is tender, almost reverent, as she traces the lines of my muscles. "You have new scars," she notes, her brow furrowing. I glance down and see the marks she's talking about, pale lines criss-crossing my skin, souvenirs from our recent battles. "So do you," I counter gently, taking the cloth from her and running it over her arm. She winces as I reach a particularly dark bruise. "Sorry," I murmur, pausing. "It's okay," she whispers. "I'm just happy we're together." I nod and continue washing her, each stroke of the cloth revealing more of the toll our journey has taken on her body. A deep cut on her side, a bruise blooming across her ribs. Each mark feels like a personal failure, a reminder that I couldn't protect her. Savannah shifts closer, wrapping her arms around me. The contact sends a shiver through me that has nothing to do with the temperature of the water. Her head rests on my shoulder as she murmurs, "We've both been through so much." "Too much," I agree, my voice barely above a whisper. My fingers trail along a particularly nasty scar on her back, one that looks like it could have come from a blade. The sight of it makes my chest tighten with guilt and anger. She pulls back slightly to look at me, her eyes searching mine. "We're still here," she says softly. "Together." I lean in and press my forehead to hers, closing my eyes and just breathing in the moment. Her scent mingles with the rersed oil, creating a comforting blend that soothes some of the tension coiled within me. Our foreheads press together, breaths mingling in the warm, fragrant air. Savannah's fingers trace patterns on my chest, each touch igniting sparks across my skin. I shift closer, capturing her lips in a kiss that starts tender and quickly deepens. Her soft moan vibrates against my mouth, fueling the fire within me. My hands explore her curves, memorizing every dip and rise of her body. Savannah's touch grows more urgent, her nails grazing my back. I can feel the pulse of her magic intertwining with mine, a heady sensation that makes me dizzy with desire. She pulls away just enough to whisper against my lips, "I need you." Her words send a jolt through me. "Then let me take care of you," I murmur. I help her out of the tub, water cascading from her body like liquid silk. She stands before me, vulnerable yet unashamed. I grab a soft towel and wrap it around her, patting her dry with careful hands. Each stroke is deliberate, savoring the connection between us. "You're beautiful," I say, voice husky with emotion. Savannah's eyes soften as she gazes up at me. "And you're mine." Once she's dry, I lift her into my arms and carry her to the bed. The mattress dips under our weight as I lay her down gently, spreading out her red curls like a fiery halo on the pillow. I take a moment to admire the sight. Her flushed cheeks, the rise and fall of her chest, the way she looks at me with absolute trust. My heart aches at how pale she was earlier, how close I came to losing her. "Julius," she breathes, reaching out for me. I lower myself beside her, our bodies fitting together like puzzle pieces. My hands continue their journey over her skin, mapping out every scar and bruise as if committing them to memory, will somehow protect her from future harm. YouTube won't allow us to finish the rest of this scene, so if you want all of the sensual, spicy details, you can get them from worldsofprothika.com for 30% off with code YouTube30. You can even get the full season in Season 1 for 30% off. Anyone up for a binge? Rosenfire, our family holds great weight and power in Orthani, and yet I hear whispers.
Do you think he can take him?
There is no way that this could happen.
No, more books. I can't remain locked in this ivory tower a moment longer.
She's perfect. The Baron's daughter must be found.
Julius, we shouldn't.
Why shouldn't we?
I am not a full dark elf. I do not possess their ethereal beauty. How will I find a mate?
The lowly Baron's son apparently has shown that he has the same gift of fire-wielding as I, if not stronger.
I am the family's dirty little secret. I am not the future of the family. Dukan is.
This world was created from a seed of evil.
I propose we take Dukan out of the picture, permanently.
Please, let me go.
If you want to join the poor humans who are bought and sold in the markets on a daily basis, you will find a way to get there.
I am free, and I am terrified.
You will never escape me.
I can try.
You will fail. Get seasons 1 and 2 of the Dark Elf series from worldsofprothika.com.
Prothika's magic is eternal. This series will show you why. Chapter 52. Savannah. Sunlight filters through the worn curtains, casting a soft glow on Julius's face. I trace the contours of his jaw with my finger, savouring the rare moment of peace. But beneath my contentment, worry festers. Julius, I whisper, not wanting to break the tranquility, but unable to hold back any longer. He murmurs, eyes still closed but a faint smile playing on his lips. I'm worried about the baby. His eyes snap open, concern replacing his earlier relaxation. He props himself up on one elbow to face me. What do you mean? After everything that's happened, the fights, the magic, what if... Shh. He cuts me off, placing a gentle finger on my lips. The baby is strong, just like its mother. But what if it's not enough? My voice trembles. I used so much magic, and I passed out more than once. That can't be good for our child. Julius pulls me closer, his warmth a temporary balm for my fears. We'll find a healer, someone who can tell us for sure that everything is all right. And if it's not? We'll cross that bridge when we get to it, he says firmly. For now, let's focus on finding help. I want to believe him, to let his confidence soothe my anxiety. But the image of our child, vulnerable and unseen, clings to my thoughts like a shadow. I can't lose you, he continues softly, as if reading my mind. Or our baby. We need to find someone today. Today? I cock my head. You can't go out in the city. I'm sure I can manage a minor glamour now that my magic is back. His flames flare around his hands like he can't believe it. I think it will be worth it. I run a hand over my stomach, thinking it over before nodding. Okay, if you think we can, we'll go find someone. Good, he says, pressing a kiss to my forehead. Now let's get ready. As we rise and prepare for the day ahead, I can't shake the lingering dread. Julius's reassurance means everything, but until I know for certain that our child is safe, I can't silence the gnawing fear in my heart. Pushing the curtain back, I see that Razdan and Ranika are gone. They must have headed into the city. I don't think much of it as Julius reaches for me, though. We'll find them later. As we step out of our room, the inn's dimly lit corridor feels like a tunnel leading to uncertainty. Julius walks ahead, his hand warm around mine, but I can't shake the cold dread gnawing at my insides. Razdin stands near the entrance, his imposing form almost blocking out the morning light streaming in from outside. His green eyes meet mine, and I can see a flicker of concern there. I try to brush it away as I ask, "Where's Rannika?" A smile flickers along the Minotaur's lips like he can see right through my attempts. "She went to get some supplies in town. I figured she was the safest out of all of us." I nod, turning to look at Julius. "Good." "You seem troubled," he says, voice gruff yet surprisingly gentle for a Minotaur. I try to muster a reassuring smile but fail. "It's nothing." Razdin snorts. "You're a terrible liar." Julius stops and turns back to us. His eyes meet mine and I nod. "Savannah's pregnant." Razdin's head tilts, his eyes widening a little. "After everything, we're a little worried about the baby." "Understandable," Razdin replies, rubbing his chin thoughtfully. "I might be able to help." My heart skips a beat. "How?" He gestures for us to follow him outside. We step into the bright sunlight, and he leads us to a shaded spot behind the inn, where he opens a small satchel he's been carrying. I grabbed these from the Minotaur while they thought I was dead. He pulls out a collection of odd items, crystals that glimmer in the light, small vials of glowing liquid, and intricately carved wooden tools. "What are these?" I ask, curiosity piqued despite my anxiety. "Tools for detecting and stabilizing magic," Razdin explains. "They use them in their rituals and experiments." Julius raises an eyebrow. "Experiments?" "Not all Minotaurs hate magic," Razdin says with a hint of bitterness. "Some seek to understand it, even control it." He selects a crystal from the collection and holds it up to the light. It catches the sun's rays, casting rainbow patterns on the ground. "This crystal can sense magical fluctuations," Razdin says. "It'll help me determine if your magic is affecting the baby." I glance at Julius, who nods encouragingly. Taking a deep breath, I step closer to Razdin. "Hold still," he instructs, moving the crystal slowly around me. A soft hum emanates from the crystal as it passes near my abdomen. Razdin's brow furrows in concentration. "What do you see?" Julius asks, his voice tight with worry. "There is a lot of magical energy here," Razdin murmurs. "But it's not chaotic. It's harmonizing." "Harmonizing?" I echo, unsure what that means. Razdin looks up at me, his expression serious yet hopeful. "The baby is absorbing your magic and balancing it within itself." My breath catches in my throat. "Is that good?" "It's better than expected," he assures me. "The child is strong, stronger than you think." A wave of relief washes over me, but it doesn't erase all my worries. Still, for now, it's enough to know our baby has its own strength. Razdin continues to move the crystal around me, its hum growing louder. Suddenly, the light within it flickers, casting eerie shadows across the ground. His brow furrows deeper. "What is it?" Julius asks, his voice laced with concern. Razdin's eyes narrow as he focuses on the crystal. "There's something else here. Something dark." My heart skips a beat. "Dark? What do you mean?" He moves the crystal closer to my abdomen, and the flickering intensifies. "This isn't just your magic. There's another kind of magic present. Tainted, dark magic." Julius tenses beside me. "Dark magic? How is that possible?" Razdin turns his piercing gaze to Julius. "Do you know anything about this?" Julius hesitates, his jaw clenching. I think I might." I look at him, confusion and fear swirling in my chest. Razdin must see it as he says, "Julius, what's going on?" He takes a deep breath, avoiding my gaze. "Dark magic saved me before. I almost died and it saved me. Rasdin's eyes widen in realization. So you have been touched by it. And now it's affecting our baby. My voice trembles with anxiety. Rasdin nods slowly. It seems so. What does this mean for our child? I ask, desperation creeping into my tone. Rasdin examines the crystal again, his expression unreadable. I don't know yet. My breath catches in my throat as I try to process this new information. Julius reaches for my hand, squeezing it reassuringly. We'll figure this out, he says firmly. But what if... I can't finish the sentence, fear choking me. Rasdin interrupts gently. We'll need more information before jumping to conclusions. The crystal's light dims as Rasdin lowers it, his expression grave but determined. I look at Julius, seeing the worry etched on his face despite his attempts to reassure me. The dark magic tainting our child. It feels like another obstacle in an already perilous journey. Let's not panic, Rasdin advises calmly. We'll find someone who can help us understand what this means and how to address it. I nod numbly, clinging to Julius's hand as if it's a lifeline. The future feels more uncertain than ever, but I have to hold on to hope, for our child's sake and ours.
Chapter 53. Julius. Rasdin's eyes narrow as he shifts his attention from Savannah to me. The air in the room feels heavier, almost suffocating. His green eyes pierce through me, and I can tell he's not about to sugarcoat anything. Your turn, Julius, Rasdin says, his voice a low rumble. He steps closer, his massive form blocking out the dim light filtering through the window. What? No, I'm fine, I protest. Since we found the artifact, I've been healthy, stronger even. Rasdin shakes his head, a glint of pity in his eyes. I need to check on you, Julius. We need to know. He tilts his head, holding out a questioning hand to me. Savannah looks between us, her eyes wide. Fine. Do what you have to do, I say, forcing my voice to remain steady, trying to sound indifferent despite the turmoil inside. Rasdin steps even closer, his presence overwhelming. He places a scarred hand on my shoulder, the rough texture of his skin brushing against mine. Surprisingly, his touch is gentle, almost tender, a stark contrast to his formidable appearance. His eyes flicker with concentration as he begins to murmur an incantation in a language I barely recognize. I stand my ground, though every instinct screams at me to recoil. My body tenses, my jaw clenches, but I refuse to show any sign of weakness. A warm glow begins to envelop me, spreading from his hand and pulsing rhythmically through my body. It's like a heartbeat, steady and relentless, and I can feel the magic probing, searching. The sensation is both comforting and unsettling, a reminder of Rasdin's power and the vulnerability I rarely allow anyone to see. Hold still, Rasdin commands, his voice steady yet charged with authority. His brow furrows as he examines me, the once warm glow shifting to an eerie shade of black. The change sends a shiver down my spine, but I refuse to show any sign of discomfort. What's wrong? Savannah's voice trembles with worry, her fingers digging into my arm in a desperate grasp. Her touch is a stark contrast to Rasdin's relentless probing, and I can sense her fear despite her attempt to remain calm. Quiet, Rasdin snaps, though there's no malice in his tone. His eyes remain locked on me, a flicker of frustration crossing his face. I need focus. The intensity in his gaze is almost palpable, and I can feel the weight of his concentration bearing down on me. Minutes stretch into what feels like hours as he continues his inspection. The warmth that once enveloped me turns cold, seeping into my bones and making me shiver involuntarily. Savannah's grip tightens, and I can feel her anxiety through the trembling of her hands. Rasdin's incantation grows more intense, the black glow pulsating ominously. Every second drags, the air thick with unspoken fears, and a magic that feels both ancient and insidious. Their dark magic. It's entwined in you, Razdan finally says, withdrawing his hand. His gaze meets mine with a gravity that unsettles me. It's not just in you. It's a part of you. That's how it's affecting your baby. Oh, gods, I mutter. But it saved me. Can't we get rid of it? Razdan shakes his head. This isn't just residual dark magic from a curse or an artifact. It's deeply integrated with your essence. Savannah gasps beside me, her grip tightening. What does that mean for Julius? Razdan's gaze remains locked on mine, his eyes filled with an odd mix of pity and resignation. The dark magic is bound to you, Julius. It's not something that can be purged or healed. What are you saying? My voice comes out more desperate than I intend. He sighs, the sound heavy with the weight of unwelcome truths. This dark magic, it's entwined with your own magic. You can't have one without the other. That's why you've been so ill. Savannah's hand tightens on my arm, her knuckles white. But there has to be something we can do, she insists, her voice trembling. Razdan shakes his head slowly. Dark magic is tenacious. It latches onto its host and refuses to let go. It's like a parasite that feeds off your life force, weakening you from within. Silence stretches between us, thick and suffocating. Savannah's grip on my arm is the only thing anchoring me to reality. I glance at her, seeing the worry etched on her face. Her eyes dart between me and Razdan, seeking answers none of us have. Razdan quietly gathers his tools, his movements deliberate and methodical. The room seems to shrink around us, the weight of his words pressing down on me. I feel exposed, vulnerable in a way I haven't since I was a child. The realization that this dark magic is a part of me, inextricable and consuming, gnaws at my insides. Savannah's voice trembles as she speaks. So this is what was affecting Julius's magic? Why he's been so weak? She grimaces apologetically as she says, weak, and I squeeze her hand, trying to reassure her. It is, Razdan confirms, his voice heavy with the weight of the truth. I keep my eyes on Savannah, watching the worry lines etch deeper into her face. Her brown eyes shimmer with unshed tears, and it takes everything in me not to crumble under her gaze. It's not your fault, I say, my voice steadier than I feel. None of this is. Razdan's expression darkens, casting an ominous shadow over his already intense features. The dark magic is converting your natural magic, Julius. It's destroying you from the inside out. The words hit me like a physical blow, leaving me momentarily stunned. Converting my magic? How? I managed to ask, my voice barely above a whisper. It's turning your own power against you, Razdan explains, his voice steady yet laden with gravity. Your natural magic is being corrupted, twisted into something dark and malevolent. That's why you've been feeling weaker, why your spells have been failing. I look down at my hands, the fire tattoos on my palms seeming to mock me now. Savannah's grip on my arm tightens. I can feel her trembling beside me. Is there anything we can do? She asks, her voice barely above a whisper. Razdan nods slowly, his eyes locked onto mine. The artifact you're wearing, the binding band of Aurelia, it's the only thing keeping the dark magic at bay. Without it, the corruption would spread unchecked, and you would eventually die. I feel Savannah's grip tighten on my arm, her knuckles white with tension. What do you mean? I ask, my voice barely masking the desperation I feel. Razdan takes a deep breath, his gaze unwavering. The artifact not only amplifies your magic and provides strength, but it also acts as a binding for the dark magic within you. Binding, Savannah echoes, her voice filled with both hope and confusion. Yes, Razdan confirms, his tone grave. It keeps the dark magic contained, preventing it from spreading further and consuming you entirely. Without it, the dark magic would run rampant, corrupting every part of your being. Savannah's eyes are wide with fear and concern. But if it's binding the dark magic, can't we find a way to remove it, to get rid of it completely? Razdan shakes his head slowly. The binding is only effective while Julius is wearing the artifact. The dark magic is intertwined with Julius's essence now. Removing it without killing him is beyond any magic I know. I glance down at the band on my arm, its iridescent runes glowing faintly as if whispering secrets only it knows. So, I have to keep this on? Forever? His eyes soften, a rare hint of sympathy breaking through his usually stern demeanor. Yes, Julius. The artifact is now part of you, just as much as the dark magic is. Removing it would be fatal. Savannah's grip tightens even more, and I can feel her fear mingling with my own. My mind races, searching for alternatives, but Razdan's unwavering gaze tells me there are none. The weight of the binding band seems heavier now, a constant reminder of the price of my power and the dark fate that looms over me. I close my eyes for a moment, trying to gather my thoughts, the weight of Razdan's words pressing down on me. So this is it, I say finally, opening my eyes to meet Razdan's unwavering gaze. I'm bound to this artifact for the rest of my life. Razdan nods solemnly. It's the only way to keep you alive and to prevent the dark magic from consuming you entirely.
There comes a time when you must sacrifice everything for something bigger than yourself.
My job was to kidnap her, not fall in love with her.
What if Julius had seen me use magic? He must never know.
What's happening to me? What's happening to my magic?
He would never understand. He'd see me as a liability, a risk too great to keep close.
When everything begins to fall apart, and the only remedy is to sacrifice your heart.
No, I can't let him find out.
I propose we take Dukan out of the picture, permanently.
Please, don't do this.
You will never escape me.
I can try.
You will fail.
And that time is now.
Savannah, run!
Chapter 54. Savannah. The wooden steps creak under my feet as I climb to the roof, heart heavy with the weight of unspoken words. Julius fled up here not long after Razdan's revelation, and I can't bear to let him be alone in his turmoil. I can tell he's blaming himself for the dark magic entwined with our baby's essence. Reaching the top, the cool night air wraps around me. The sea breeze carries the tang of salt and whispers through the inn's shingles. Moonlight spills across the roof, casting long shadows. There he is, perched on the edge, his broad back silhouetted against the stars. Julius? My voice barely rises above a whisper. He doesn't turn. Go back inside, Savannah. Ignoring his command, I move closer until I stand beside him. The edge of the roof drops sharply away into darkness below, and for a moment, dizziness threatens to overtake me. You shouldn't be out here, he murmurs. His tone is soft, but firm. I'm not leaving you, I reply. My fingers twitch with the urge to touch him, but I hold back. Julius, I say softly, reaching out to touch his arm. It's not your fault. Silence stretches between us, thick and uncomfortable. Julius finally speaks, voice raw. I can't protect you like this. His eyes, those burning red orbs, flicker with a mixture of pain and determination. Savannah, you don't understand. This darkness. It's because of me. Because I was weak. I squeeze his hand, feeling the warmth of his skin against mine. You were never weak. You've always been strong. For me. For us. His words pierce through me. You don't have to protect me from everything. I'm perfectly capable of protecting myself, and you at times. He finally looks at me then, red eyes glowing like embers in the moonlight. You don't understand. It's not just about protection. His hands clench into fists on his knees. I was dying. That magic, it was eating me alive. And you didn't tell me. My own voice trembles now. I couldn't, he admits, eyes falling away from mine again. I didn't want to worry you. I sink down beside him, legs dangling over the edge. Julius, we're supposed to be partners in this. His shoulders sag under some invisible weight. What kind of partner am I if I can't even take care of myself? The vulnerability in his voice tugs at my heartstrings. I reach out, placing a hand over his clenched fist. The warmth of his skin grounds me. Julius takes a deep breath, his chest rising and falling heavily. Savannah, the baby. His voice cracks, a rare tremor in his otherwise strong demeanour. He looks away, the muscles in his jaw tightening. Now our child carries my burden. I take a deep breath, trying to calm the storm brewing inside me. Our child carries our love too, I remind him gently, and that is far stronger than any darkness. He shakes his head, a pained expression etched on his face. I feel responsible for all of this, the black magic, my grandfather's death. It's like everything I touch turns to ash. I move closer, pressing my shoulder against his. The night air seems colder now, the sea's whisper turning mournful. Your grandfather made his choices, Julius. You can't carry that weight alone. His eyes flicker with anguish. But I do carry it, every moment. The dark magic was inside me, killing me, and now it's in our baby. We'll find a way, I insist, my voice firm despite the lump in my throat. We've faced so much already and come through it together. He leans his head back, staring up at the stars as if searching for answers among them. I'm terrified, Savannah, he admits softly. My heart aches for him, for us. I know you are, I say, reaching up to gently cup his face, forcing him to look at me. But you're not alone in this. We'll figure it out together. Julius's gaze returns to mine, searching for something, perhaps hope or reassurance. I will fight for us, he vows, voice steady and resolute. I nod, feeling a swell of pride and love for this man who has faced so much and yet continues to stand tall. And I will fight alongside you, and everything will be okay as long as we have each other. He closes his eyes briefly, then opens them again, looking at me with a mixture of fear and hope. You believe that? With all my heart, I whisper. For a moment we sit there in silence, the only sound the distant crash of waves against the shore. Then Julius pulls me into an embrace, holding me tightly as if afraid to let go. Thank you, he murmurs into my hair. We're stronger together, I reply softly. I lean into him, resting my head on his shoulder. The warmth of his body soothes my frayed nerves. Despite everything we've been through, despite the shadows lurking at the edges of our lives, I know we will persevere. Julius kisses the top of my head, a tender gesture that speaks volumes more than words ever could. In this moment, with his arms around me and the promise of our future together, my anxiety begins to melt away. And in that moment, under the starry sky, we are bound not just by love, but by shared fears and an unbreakable resolve to face whatever comes next, together.
Chapter 55. Lius. Savannah shivers as a cool breeze floats through the air. Come on, let's head inside and go to bed. I stand and reach my hand out for her. I watch her intently, noting every flicker in her eyes, the tremor in her hands. I noticed it before, but with my magic back, I can feel as hers pulses erratically. Julius, she says softly as she looks up at me. Her gaze drops to the ground, and she wraps her arms around herself as if trying to hold herself together. I step closer, reaching out to pull her up. What's going on? Her magic flares for a moment, then dims. I feel it like a second heartbeat, chaotic and wild. It's draining her. She takes a shaky breath, trying to steady herself. I'm not sure, she whispers, eyes glistening with unshed tears. I just haven't felt myself. A wave of energy pulses from her, and I can see the exhaustion in her face. She sways slightly, and I move to catch her. Savannah, I say urgently, you need to rest. She tries to protest, but her words slur as if spoken underwater. No, we need... Her sentence trails off as her knees buckle. I wrap my arms around her just as she begins to collapse. Her body feels impossibly light in my arms, like a flickering flame on the verge of being extinguished. Savannah! My voice is rough with panic. Her eyes flutter closed and her breathing becomes shallow. Her face is pale, lips tinged with blue. My heart races as I lift her effortlessly, cradling her close. She feels lighter than ever, a wisp of a woman who once burned so brightly. I rush down the stairs, every step a desperate prayer that she holds on. The inn's wooden floorboards creak under my weight, echoing the urgency of my steps. The smell of salt and old wood mixes with the scent of Savannah's hair, grounding me in this moment. Razdan! Ronica! My voice breaks through the silence as I burst into the room where they wait. Ronica, back from the market, stands first, her eyes wide with concern. What happened? She collapsed, I say, laying Savannah on a nearby table. Please do something. Razdan steps forward, his massive frame moving with surprising grace. He examines Savannah with practiced care, his green eyes focused and intense. He places one hand on her forehead and the other on her abdomen, muttering under his breath. Ronica hovers nearby, hands clenched at her sides. Is she going to be all right? Razdan's brow furrows deeper as he continues his examination. Minutes stretch like hours until he finally looks up. The baby, Razdan says gravely. It's draining her life force to fuel its own magic. A chill runs down my spine. Savannah stirs slightly but doesn't wake. Her breathing remains shallow, each inhale a struggle. Ronica steps closer, placing a hand on my shoulder. We'll help her, Julius. I nod, swallowing hard. I've noticed Razdan teaching Ronica some magic and herbs, and I'm in no shape to help him heal Savannah. The weight of our situation presses down on me, but I can't afford to falter now. Savannah needs me, needs us all. Razdan begins to gather herbs and tools from his bag, setting up for what looks like an intricate ritual. His movements are swift and sure. Hold on, Savannah, I whisper softly as I brush a strand of hair from her face. We'll get through this together. The room fills with a tense silence as Razdan prepares to work his magic, every second feeling like an eternity. And so we wait, hoping against hope that we can save both Savannah and our unborn child from the peril that threatens them both. The room hums with Razdan's incantations, the air thick with tension. Savannah lies motionless on the table, her breaths shallow and uneven. I watch as Razdan places intricate patterns of herbs around her, his face a mask of concentration. The baby's magic is too strong, Razdan says, his voice low and urgent. It's siphoning her energy to sustain itself. I clench my fists, helplessness clawing at my insides. What can we do to stop it? Razdan doesn't look up from his work. We need to create a balance. Her magic and the baby's must coexist without draining her completely. Savannah's face contorts in pain, even in her unconscious state, and I can feel my heart breaking. This isn't fair. She doesn't deserve this. None of us do. Ronica steps forward, her eyes filled with determination. I can help channel some of the baby's magic away from Savannah, but it'll be risky. Do it, I say without hesitation. We don't have a choice. Ronica nods and positions herself opposite Razdan, her hands glowing with a soft blue light. She begins to chant softly, her voice blending with Razdin's deeper tones. The air crackles with energy as their combined efforts envelop Savannah. I place my hand on Savannah's forehead, feeling the warmth of her skin beneath my palm. "Stay with us, love," I whisper. "We need you." The room grows brighter as Ronica and Razdin's magic intertwines around Savannah, creating a shimmering barrier of light. I watch in awe and terror as the energy shifts, flowing between Savannah and the unborn child. Razdin grunts with effort, sweat beading on his forehead. The baby. It's incredibly powerful, more than I anticipated. Ranika's voice wavers slightly but remains steady. "We're almost there." Savannah's body arches slightly off the table, a faint glow emanating from her abdomen where the baby rests. Her breathing steadies just a fraction, but it's enough to give me hope. "Come on," I murmur under my breath. "Fight through this." Minutes feel like hours as they continue their work, the room filled with an almost unbearable intensity. Finally, the glow begins to fade, and both Ronica and Razdin lower their hands, exhausted. Savannah's eyes flutter open for a moment before closing again, but her breathing is more even now. "It worked," Razdin says breathlessly. "For now."
There isn't much left of the world after the orcs came.
Savage. Brutal. Merciless.
If you're a woman, you're property. Even to other humans.
What happens when an orc stakes his claim on a human woman? Who would dare to stop him?
Me. Chapter 56. Savannah. Julius, Razdin, and Ranica are all around me as I lie on the bed, glaring at me in a way that makes my skiing crawl. If I had any energy at all, I'd tell them to give me some space, but even the thought of that seems like too much effort. Apparently, this team meeting is to strategize what is the best plan of action to save both me and my baby. "We have to find someone here on Milthar," Razdin says, his deep voice vibrating through the dimly lit room. "There are apostates that know more. Someone should know dark magic and can save Savannah." Julius clenches his fists, standing protectively close to me. "We can't stay on Milthar. We've almost died several times, and I can't be seen here. No one would bat an eye at killing any of us at this point." "We don't have very many options," Razdin argues, his green eyes flickering with frustration. Ranica steps forward, her small frame a stark contrast to the Minotaur's bulk. "We need to take her to Praj." "Praj?" Julius raises an eyebrow. "The Perna there," Ranica continues, her voice steady. "I've heard rumours of women with magic. They are known for dealing with powerful magic. If anyone can help Savannah, it's them." I glance between them, my heart racing. The baby's magic churns inside me like a storm, each pulse a reminder of my dwindling time. Julius's face softens as he looks at me. "Savannah?" Ranica might be right, I whisper, my voice barely audible. "The Perna, I've heard stories about their power." Razdin huffs, crossing his arms over his broad chest. "It's risky. The journey alone. I'll do anything." Julius interrupts, his gaze locking onto mine. "Whatever it takes." Ranica nods in agreement. "We don't have time to debate. If we stay here much longer..." Her words hang in the air, heavy and unspoken. I take a deep breath, trying to steady the turmoil inside me. "Praj it is." Razdin's eyes narrow, but he finally relents with a grunt. "Fine, Praj." Julius wraps an arm around my waist, his touch grounding me amidst the chaos of my thoughts. "We leave at dawn," he declares, his voice a mix of determination and desperation. Razdin nods, though his expression remains wary. "It's a long journey. We'll need supplies." Ranika steps closer, her blue eyes scanning my face with an intensity that makes me shiver. "I'll gather what we need," she says softly. "Savannah, rest now. Conserve your strength." I want to argue, to insist on helping, but my body betrays me. As I sit up in bed, the room starts to spin, and I find myself falling backwards. Julius tightens his hold, guiding me gently to the pillow. The room still feels like it's spinning, the edges of my vision blurring. "You can do this, Savannah. You're the strongest woman I know," Julius whispers, his lips brushing my ear. His warmth seeps into me, a small comfort against the cold dread gnawing at my insides. Razdin and Ranika move with purpose, gathering supplies and whispering plans. The dim light casts long shadows on the walls, making everything feel surreal, like a half-remembered dream. I lean into Julius, my head resting on his shoulder. Do you think Perna can help?" My voice sounds small and fragile. He presses a kiss to my forehead. "They have to," he murmurs. "They have no choice. I refuse to lose either of you." The words are meant to be reassuring, but I can hear the uncertainty beneath them. Still, I cling to his promise like a lifeline. Julius climbs into bed and wraps me up in his warm arms. It doesn't take too much effort on my part to fall asleep as I'm running on fumes. As dawn breaks, the room fills with a pale golden light. Razdin shoulders a heavy pack while Ranika carries a smaller one filled with herbs and potions. "We're ready," Razdin announces. Razdin packed dried meat and bread into a rough burlap sack, his movements efficient and practiced. Ranika checks the small pouches of herbs and potions she's assembled, her fingers nimble despite the urgency. Julius helps me to my feet, his arm never leaving my waist. Every step feels like a battle, but I push forward, bolstered by the determination in his eyes. The air outside is crisp and cool as we step into the early morning light. The scent of salt from the nearby sea mingles with the earthy aroma of dew-covered grass. It's almost peaceful, if not for the storm raging within me. "We need to be quick," Ranika says, her voice low but firm. The journey to Praj is not easy, and time is against us. "We'll find our way," Julius says quietly, as we begin our journey towards Praj. His hand squeezes mine gently, offering strength I desperately need. Julius nods, his eyes never leaving me. "Savannah, how are you holding up?" I force a smile, though I know it doesn't reach my eyes. "I'll manage." I can feel the baby's magic pulsing inside me, each beat a reminder of why we're doing this. Despite my exhaustion, I draw strength from that thought. "We're doing this for our child," I whisper to Julius as we navigate through the dense underbrush. He nods, determination etched into his features. "For our child." As we buy passage to sail away from Milthar's shores, Julius glamoured and Razdin acting as the slave owner for me and Ranika, hope flickers in my heart despite everything. We have a chance, a slim one, but it's enough for now. If someone had told me a month ago that I would be running for my life instead of sitting in the stuffy classroom of the bordello, preparing to be sold off to indoor, I would have laughed.
Forest is not your safe space, little one.
But there's no avoiding my fate.
It's you. You're the one.
I've spent my entire life training to be the perfect bride for the top-bidding dark elf. So much can change in so little time.
You understand why you're being punished, right, child?
Your blood. It sings to me.
Please, let me out of here.
You need to learn your place.
But what are you? Where are you taking me?
Run!
I'm a bringer of death.
No, you're not dying. I won't let you.
You won't be able to get out.
Let me go, please.
Sadie, I will make you mine.